virtue, which I am eminently qualified to talk to you about because I possess it in abundance. Humility. Gospel here this morning says, all we have to do is do what we're supposed to do because we're nothing but unprofitable servants. Wow. That's Jesus, really giving us a punch to the la banza. That's in Italian, right into the gut, huh? La banza. We're unprofitable servants. We're just called to do what we are supposed to do. And that basically is humility. I think that all of us got or should have gotten a lesson in humility from this recent hurricane. It really humbles us to be in a situation where we have very little power, figuratively and literally, and very little control over our situation, no matter who we are, whether you're rich or poor, whether you had a big house on the Gulf and a beautiful Jaguar in your garage, or you were a poor soul like me who had a small condo with a Kia. We were all leveled, all humbled by that experience. The power of the winds and the waves and the rain, all of those things tell us, we're not really in control of life as we think we are in control of life. I was thinking about this, some people think that we can control the climate. I mean the weather. We can't even do that, can we? We can't. That's a fact. But human beings like to think of themselves as being in control. And we have, in our, especially Western civilization, this whole concept of self-esteem. We have to build self-esteem, and we have to realize that the world is a better place because we are in it. Maybe not. I was thinking about this a great deal. We hear these expressions, the world's a better place because you are in it. And this is kind of proclaimed throughout society. I know that it's being taught in our schools. I think I can say quite honestly, both in the public school system and in the Catholic school system, the Christian schools, that we are so wonderful, we are God's gift. Well, it's according to what we do with God's gifts. And even then, we are still unprofitable servants. We're only supposed to do what God wants us to do to fulfill our goal, our station in life. And our goal, of course, is to get to heaven. I was thinking about this whole self-esteem movement, how bogus it is. It's phony. It's phony. We don't hear about humility today, but that's the key. Humility is the key. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But how could these self-esteem movements be so wonderful and so successful if the rate of suicide for young people is sky high? What do you think? There's a problem. They probably don't believe it. Or else they believe everybody is better than they are, and they're the only ones that are suffering from whatever's bothering them, physically or mentally or spiritually. It's a spiritual issue. On the bottom of it all, it's a spiritual issue. I was reading also about this whole idea of self-esteem. There are some very, very, very bad people who have very high self-esteem. When they did some studies of people who were career criminals, murderers, they had a very high self-esteem. Amazing, isn't it? How many here remember Batman? Remember Batman? We all remember. We remember Batman. Okay, the good Batman. These days, the new Batman. I don't know what they're all about. They're kind of spooky to me. Remember the big criminals? Remember the Riddler, the Joker, Mr. Freeze, Ma Parker? They all had very high self-esteem, didn't they? They did. They thought they were just better than everybody else. And when you look at a program like that, they really did their homework in trying to understand the dynamic of human nature. Dynamic of human nature. You know, what do we believe about ourselves? They thought they were smarter than everybody else. They could get away with it. It's also true of the mafia. No, it does not exist. This is make-believe, all right? You look at some of the lives of the capos. They were brilliant people. They could have run General Motors. Well, I don't know if that's a compliment anymore. All right. They had very high self-esteem. They thought they could get away with everything. They were just smarter than everybody else, and they were smart, and they were smart. But they brought evil. They brought evil into the world. They brought evil into the world. They weren't doing what God wanted them to do. So you can have all the self-esteem you want. It might not necessarily be a very good thing at all, and it has to be grounded in humility. It has to be grounded in humility. Now, what are some of the things that we are called to do as unprofitable servants? What are we called to do? We're called to obey God's law. And that's humility. You see, we live in a world today that wants to make up its own rules and regulations. Everybody becomes a law unto themselves. You have a society that believes that we could build a utopia, the perfect world. We can do it all on our own. And it's something that is hubris, it's pride, it's self-esteem. We can do it all. Just pump enough money into it and we can do it. Just control the population enough and we can do it. What's the first thing that we have to do as God's servants? Gospel. We're servants, useless servants, unprofitable servants. Number one, love our neighbor as ourselves. Love our neighbor as ourselves. That's what God commands us to do. We have a wonderful opportunity now with the aftermath of this terrible hurricane, don't we? What can we do to help other people? A woman this morning said to me, what are we going to do at St. Agnes about a food bank? Well, we're going to do a lot about a food bank at St. Agnes, all right? We're going to collect the food. We're going to make sure that it gets to the right places. Knights of Columbus are going to be working on this. We're going to do everything that we can here as a parish, but then you have to do what you can as individuals. You know, we've been decimated. East Naples, downtown, decimated. Fort Myers, Cape Coral, decimated. Yeah. We are called to be servants to each other. We have a wonderful opportunity now to do that. And we're going to do it, right? Yes? Loud. All right, good, okay. Number two, this is a big one because we all do it. We got to cut down on the gossip. Yeah, you know, don't go around gossiping about everything and everybody. The less you gossip, the less damage repair you have to do later on. So, be charitable in speech. That's also serving your neighbor. Be charitable in speech and don't get into useless gossip. And half of the stuff, gossip is gossip because a good part of it is made up for the sake of entertainment and attention. Humility says, no gossip. Humility says, help your neighbor. And the last one is this. Get control of your passions, your urges. This is a big one. What does it mean? It means not just, sexual desires. A lot of people think that's the only urges that human beings have. No, it's urges to power. It's urges to wealth. It's urges to control other people. Get control of that. That's what God wants us to do, to get control of those things that take possession of us for material well-being, for power, for pleasure. Those are the three things that we have to do. Now, because the gospel says we are unprofitable servants. We're called to do what God tells us to do. That's humility. I'll tell you a short story. When I was in, graduate school in Manhattan, we were not too far away from a place called the Jewish Theological Seminary. And I made a friend over there with a young rabbi. And I said to him one day, I said, why do you wear a yarmulke on your head? And he said this. He said it's to remind us that there is always someone above us. Remind us that there is always someone above us. And that's humility. Be obedient to the one who is above us. So today what I thought we would do is we're going to sing together a hymn that you all know, but this tells us about the awesome one above us and about the humility that we should have in relationship to him as his unprofitable servants.